Hello! Today's stories come from r/Am I the Butthole? We've got 4 stories of conflict over time. And no, we're not talking about the Daleks invading. Our first story is Am I the butthole for tricking my parents into being on time for my wedding? I'm a 33-year-old male. My parents are late for everything. Like, everything. Both of my sisters and myself have been disappointed so many times. Graduation ceremonies, birthday parties, even my father's retirement dinner. It is completely my mother's fault. She is a wonderful mother, and I love her dearly. She just does not understand the concept of punctuality. I have seen her talking to her sister on the phone and reminded her she needed to be at my baby sister's dance recital. She waved me off and arrived after my sister had danced. We are all used to it. My dad is just done trying to get her to be on time for anything. My now wife, of 28, told me in no uncertain terms that if my mother was late for our wedding, she would do terrible things to me. She was only half joking, but she was a witness to my mom and dad arriving halfway through my cousin's quinceañera. So here's what I did. It is completely on me. My wife was not involved. If there is a butthole move, it was completely mine. When we were getting samples for the wedding, I talked to the printer and had one special invitation printed with the time on it, stated as being 1 hour earlier than the actual start time of the ceremony. Apparently, my mother was beside herself when they left the house and thought they were going to miss the wedding, since she was a part of it with her and my mother in law lighting the candles we would use to light the Unity candle and stuff. When she arrived and noticed other people were just arriving and parking, she was so relieved that we were starting late that she just went with it. The ceremony went off beautifully, and so did the wedding pictures and the reception. The problem came last Sunday. My parents came over for a big family dinner, and we didn't bother starting the grill until they showed up. She asked why everyone wasn't eating, and we just said we knew we would be waiting for them since they are always late. She said that she was not always late and had been on time for my wedding. She hadn't been. They arrived 45 minutes after the time on their invitation. My idiot cousin John, real name because it's common and he deserves people to know he is adult, snorted at her statement. A few other people giggled or smiled at this, and she picked up and asked what was so funny. I came clean and told her about the special invitation. She is miffed at me for not trusting her and making her look foolish in front of everyone. If my cousin had just controlled himself, she never would have known. Am I the butthole? Edit 1. Part of the reason she is mad is because she had her invitation framed. To be honest, I was already planning a heist with my sisters to replace it with a real one, in case she ever noticed the discrepancy between hers and the one we have framed in our home. Edit 2. Yeah, we are Latinos. And no, I do not in any way consider it racist. How many of you guessed that? I have been to Spain, and it's an issue there too, and the Philippines. Basically, anywhere those guys were in charge. Edit 3. Stop defending John. He and I have spent 30 years messing with each other. I have an Am I the Butthole story that ends with me getting an offensive tattoo, $5,000 for removal, and him getting a body cavity search at the Mexican border. I would post it, but it happened like 10 years ago. Not the butthole. Sometimes you have to act according to the limitations and shortcomings of others. I think it was a smart move to adjust the invitation. A low-stress solution to keeping a very important day on track. Mom is mad because she's embarrassed, but that's really on her. Let's check out the comments, all pretty much dunking on the mom in this situation. Viketacart said, not the butthole. She is embarrassed because she has a problem showing up on time, and you proved it. Oit You There said, I think she may like the attention she gets for being late. That is the only explanation for her being annoyed. Slinky said, it's just pure selfishness with a sprinkle of control issues, as in, nobody tells me what to do type stuff. Waiting for them just reinforces the behavior, unfortunately. Edit, since many have mentioned ND, executive functioning. If it were an executive function disorder, the mother would be doing her best to employ coping mechanisms and would be apologizing up and down for disappointing her kids. Instead, she doubled down and made it all about her wounded feelings, instead of even considering how her actions and choices affected her children. Someone who cares about their children would do their best to find some kind of coping mechanism or something to show up for their kids. She did nothing, again and again and again over years and years and expected everyone to just be okay with that. That is control issues. That is selfishness. And there is no other explanation. ND doesn't give someone a pass to hurt their kids again and again and again by missing important milestones and not even apologizing. The Riker maneuver said, just keep repeating that she was 45 minutes late. Flat out tell her that had you not lied to her, she would have missed your wedding. And that not only will you never apologize for doing what you did, you want an apology from her for being 45 minutes late in the first place, not the butthole. Someone else said, exactly. She's mad that OP didn't trust her, when she knows good and well she did not deserve that trust this time either, because she was late. How does she have the gall to arrive 45 minutes after the time printed on her invitation and still complain about not being trusted to arrive on time? Cheese and Pasta said, not the butthole. OP's mother, why didn't you trust me to be on time? OP's mother proceeds to arrive late. Logic? Gone. Hotel? Travago. The Time Wars continue in our second story with Am I the butthole for making my chronically late friend miss her seminar? My friend, 25-year-old female, is constantly late for everything, be it work related or fun activities. She will always be at least 15 to 20 minutes late. She does not have a car, and so oftentimes I, 25-year-old male, will pick her up from her house. I work at a university and she is a PhD student there, and her place is along the way for me. Last time I offered her a ride to work, she ended up being 20 minutes late after I've already arrived at her place. Because of that, I ended up being late for work. She is always very apologetic about her lateness, but never changes. This week, she was supposed to give a seminar at the university, which is a crucial part of her PhD program. She asked me if I could give her a ride to work that day. I told her sure, but that I was picking her up at 8 a.m. and she must be there exactly at 8 a.m. and not a minute later. She chuckled, but I told her I wasn't joking, and she promised that she will be there. The morning of her seminar, I drove to her place and got there at 7:55 and texted her that I was here, and she told me she would be out in just a minute. At 8 a.m., there was no indication that she would come out, and she didn't text anything. So, at 8:01, I drove off. At around 8:20, she called me asking me where I was. I told her I was at work and that I wasn't joking when I told her that she had to be ready right that minute. She started screaming and crying over the phone and told me that she was having a hard time that morning, couldn't be ready right at 8 a.m. She then begged me to come back to pick her up, as her seminar is at 9 a.m. and she needed to be at the school before then. I could have done it quick enough to pick her up and drop her off without affecting my work, but I decided I didn't want to do that and told her that I won't. She was crying and hyperventilating at that point and said she'd promised to never be late for anything else again and re-emphasized that the seminar was crucial for her PhD and that she absolutely cannot miss it without severe consequence. I responded, "Oh well," and hung up. I then went about my day at work normally. I feel like I could have went back and picked her up in this scenario since it wouldn't have been detrimental to me, and at the same time, this was something very important for her. On the other hand, I feel like this should be a wake-up call for her chronic lateness. Edit. Thank you everyone for the kind words. To answer a few common questions, yes, she did miss her seminar and apparently got into big trouble with the school. I don't think it's going to ruin her PhD, but there definitely are consequences. Regarding our friendship, it was already on its way out when this happened, and now we haven't talked at all for a while. I don't think my response is going to be a popular one, but here goes. I think this is a bit of a butthole move, and for two reasons. One, an important milestone in someone's academic career doesn't strike me as the most appropriate time to teach a lesson. And two, the friendship was already on the outs according to OP. So this comes across as a bit smug and maybe even punitive. Anyway, on to the comments where we'll find overwhelming support for OP. Some clever Redditors watched the clock and noticed how the "I'll be out in a minute" line wasn't exactly accurate. Like at all. Wizzo Butterboy said, "Not the butthole, you warned her. She also had 40 minutes to make other arrangements even after all her procrastination. Could you have been kinder? Yes. Could you have reminded her about your time restrictions? Yes. Could you have given her a final notice with an I'm going to drive away at 8? Yes. Is it rude as frack to be continuously late? Heck yeah. Is she an adult? Yes. Is it your problem to manage her time? No. Still, not the butthole. JJ Footy shared, when you said you left at 8:01, I was thinking butthole. But when she didn't call you until 8:20, I laughed and thought, oh no, definitely not the butthole. Your friend needs to learn that punctuality in the professional world is important. Also, her chronic lateness should not be affecting you getting to work on time. Someone else said, that's what got me. She didn't even know until 8:20. Shake my head, not the butthole. DaisyNet said, not only that, it's the fact she chuckled when he said she had to be on time. She's an intentional time waster, and that really cinched her butthole status for me. Remembering Tiger One said, not the butthole. I mean, I feel for her missing such an important event, but hey, if it was that important, she should have been ready early, not just on time. And her minute was actually 20. You could have picked a less painful time to do this, but I honestly think it would have continued until you ended up doing this at another crucial event for her. JC Bash Bash said, she's the one who chose to miss it though. She could have called up a taxi, and she didn't because she was betting on taking advantage of this person's time and being able to just get there barely in time and make her friend late for work. Our next story might have you wondering who's in the wrong from the title, but wait for the details. It reads, am I the butthole for spraying water in my wife's face to wake her up? My wife sleeps like a rock every night. She gets in this very deep sleep and nothing can disturb it. When our twins were babies, she never heard them cry during the night. It didn't bother me until recently. She decided that she was going to wake up early every day as a part of a self-care routine. She sets up 1,000 alarms every 10 minutes from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. She doesn't hear any of them. I, however, am awake since the first alarm at 5 a.m. I wake her up and I can't fall back asleep, so I toss and turn until I have to get up for work. She doesn't wake up immediately after I talk to her. I have to shake her and talk to her constantly until she's up, and I don't mind doing that at 7 a.m., but 5 a.m. is simply cruel. This has been going on for 2 weeks and I am exhausted. Yesterday, I decided I had enough of this BS, and when her first alarm went off, I took my water bottle and sprayed water on her face. She was awake instantly, turned off her torture device, phone, and I could go back to sleep. She didn't say anything, so I did it again this morning. She's apparently furious because it's extremely rude to splash her with water, not once, but twice. I think it's also extremely rude to keep me sleep deprived, but she disagrees. Edit 1. She hasn't seen a doctor for it. It has never bothered either one of us. Someone said it might be an ADHD symptom. My wife has ADHD. 2. I expressed hating being up too early, but I haven't warned her about the water. I didn't think the water through. 3. Separate rooms seems to be our solution. Update. I told my wife she was internet famous and she read a lot of the comments. She doesn't want to go to a doctor, but she agreed that waking up at 5 a.m. wasn't sustainable. She's going to switch her self-care routine to 8 a.m. She apologized, I apologized, and we've avoided torturing each other. Well, thank goodness they worked this out. I can't imagine spraying water on someone to wake them up, but I'm also not in OP's shoes. I'm not really sure where I land on this one, but I will say, someone insisting that their self-care regime has to start at 5 a.m., despite the fact there is no hope in Hades it's ever going to happen, would be extremely frustrating. The comments are one-sided, but I am curious if anyone disagrees. OP also provides a brief but important piece of context in the comments. Let's check them out. Fairy Mascot said, not the butthole. The brief discomfort she feels from a little splash of water does not hold a candle to that of being woken up every day at 5 a.m. and having to sit through an hour of nonstop blaring alarms. Jesus, I would die. Sea Fox added, yeah, I would have lost it, and she would have gotten way more than a spritz. And they have kids. Sleep is the most sacred thing in this universe with kids. She is the biggest butthole. I might have just turned off the alarm the first time and sucks to be her. Greek American Dom said, not the butthole. Sleep is holy, and your wife's BS is killing yours. Hours of alarms, because you don't have the discipline to get the frack up, is just about the most selfish thing imaginable. So be clear with her. She gets one snooze, otherwise, she is going to get the splash. Frau added, hit the snooze and I puts the water on the skin. Ratink said, not the butthole. She should learn to get up on her own. Why isn't she doing this anyway? She's an adult. OP replied, I have been waking her up almost every morning for a decade. I think she got used to it. Our last story takes the cake and mixes in some entitlement. It's titled, Am I the butthole for blowing up at my husband for messing with my alarm and causing me to miss my exam? Hello, I'm a 23-year-old female and have been married to my husband of 26 for a year. I'm in my last year of university and have been so busy for the last 2 weeks, with many projects and finals looming. My husband complains from seeing me studying and not doing activities together or hanging out with friends anymore. I've told him it's not going to last forever and that I need to focus because this is my last year and it's been the hardest. The day before the exam, he wanted me to go with him to a friend's birthday party. I refused because I was busy preparing for my exam. He pleaded with me, saying it's just 1 hour, and talked about how his friends will be upset if I'm not there. I said no and shut down any further discussions. He got upset and called me selfish and inconsiderate, but then dropped it. Before I went to bed, I set my alarm clock like I always do, since I'm a heavy sleeper. Plus, I stayed up late studying. The next morning, I woke up at 9 a.m. I literally freaked out and checked my alarm and found that it was set to go off at 9:30 a.m. I had no idea how this happened till my husband told me he did this to repay me for refusing to take one hour to attend the party, so he took this hour from my time. I couldn't believe it. I absolutely blew up at him, just yelling and screaming at him left and right. He just stood there, shocked from my reaction and my rage. I got dressed quickly and rushed to the university. They didn't let me into the exam hall. I got into a lot of hassle to get them to reschedule the exam, especially since I had no legit reason as to why I was late. It was awful, is all I can say. I went home and my husband and I stopped speaking to each other. He kept acting as if I hurt his feelings and traumatized him by yelling, and that I deserve what he did, since he was frustrated with my continual refusal to attend all events for the past 2 weeks. I might be wrong for not considering it, but I think that my exams should be a priority, and his way of teaching me a lesson was not right. Seems to me like OP usually goes with the flow and goes along with plans made by her husband. The fact that he doesn't support her dedication and determination to her education for even 2 weeks is a huge flag. OP is unequivocally not the butthole. Her husband is, though, and he's super childish. True to Reddit form, there were a bunch of comments that pretty much said OP should be going with the nuclear option on the relationship. Let's check them out. JBR said, Not the butthole. Holy crap, your husband wanted to actively ruin your future because of a fracking party you couldn't attend? What kind of husband would do crap like that? That's so fracking petty. I think he deserved a lot more than just being yelled at. I would have kicked him out immediately. Cadmium shared, He punished you because you didn't obey him. He tried to sabotage your degree, or at least passing a class, worth thousands of dollars, because you didn't obey him. Not the butthole, but I would be seriously reconsidering my relationship with a man who feels entitled to do this. I also wouldn't trust him for a long time, if ever again. Set your alarm on your phone and change your passcode so he can't get to it. Make sure your bank account is separate. Random User of Doom said, I usually hate all of the get a divorce reactions to anything, but a man teaching you a lesson because you refuse to do as he says? Do you hear it yourself? He was willing to mess up your grade, your future, because he feels entitled to teach you a lesson? What if you get a job that interferes with his idea of social life? Are you willing to risk getting fired for his next stunt? So stay if you like, but he must have learned his lesson for that. So whatever you do, make sure the consequences now are strong enough for him to reconsider next time. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.